have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Belly up to the bar, we've kept your seat, and it's great to see you back. It's Thursday. It's October the 19th, the year of our Lord, 2017. Blaine is going to be your bartender tonight. He pours with the best of them, and the lava lamp is in fact lighted to my left, your right. If you happen to be listening live on the SHR Media at shrmedia.com, and you can watch us live on the SHR Media channel on YouTube. Watch us live. Watch me right now live on the SHR Media Facebook page, and also on Lone Star TV. Count them, three buttery ways in which to watch me, or you can just listen and partake of the chat room at shrmedia.com. It doesn't get any better than that, does it? Despite what Jersey Joe says, we don't water our crimes just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all here at the Saloon. Nothing is sacred. The speech is free, but the booze is not all that we ask. One little teeny weeny thing. Flush the damn toilet. Jiggle the damn handle. Don't forget to tip your waitress. I called this the Let's Skewer Leftists night because they're absolutely begging for it these days. Now, with luck, you just got through listening to Jersey Joe, the reaver of common sense. If there's common sense, Jersey Joe will reave the shite out of it. I think those are facts and evidence, shall we say. Let's turn up the gain on this thing a little bit. So, you just heard Jersey Joe. He gave you tons of information. He skewered leftists, but I'm going to make it official. It is, in fact, the Let's Skewer Leftists show tonight. Before we do that, however, I was made aware of a response today by someone who doesn't customarily talk much in the... He doesn't get in front of the public very much. Oh, before I forget my manners, unlike some personnel of Sackheads, Clint, I mind my manners, and I like to acknowledge people that are in chat. So already, thanks to Mike, who's in chat, Whiskey Dale, who's in chat, and Dave, and one viewer who's in chat. And unlike Samantha Power, we will not unmask you. You will remain completely unmasked. That is why you're safe here in the Saloon. In any event, John Kelly happened to make a response today to this particularly wacky individual. I almost don't want to say her name. She's a representative in Congress, and she's a joke. Wilson. Her last name is Wilson, Frederica. And she made a big deal out of a particular thing that Trump said that many people in the military happened to say to each other because she wanted to make it all politics. It's all political, everything. Every little teeny aspect, and they, Democrats, leftists, the American media maggots, as you will hear tonight, are here to do everything they possibly can to disrupt Donald Trump in any way because we didn't get Hillary. So they're going to do anything they possibly can to make sure that they make his life a living hell. Sometimes I think that Trump is attempting to do that in reverse. Sometimes I wish he'd just take a big cup of STFU himself. But you know what? You knew what you had when you bought him. And you had a pretty good idea that what he was doing during the campaign was likely going to be some of what he'd do during his presidency. So, you know what? Should BZ be really surprised about a lot of these things? And the answer is obviously no. I shouldn't. So, White House Chief of Staff replacing Reince Priebus, which in my estimation was a very good move. I never had any trust in Reince. He's a member of the GOP establishhacks, and he can now go do whatever the hell Reince Priebus is doing. One question, all right? Who the fuck names their child Reince? What is a Reince? Does anyone have an idea what a Reince is? I literally do not. In any event, John Kelly, general, respected military general, and who lost his son, a soldier in Afghanistan, he had a rather pointed discussion at the podium in the White House this morning. And this was in response to this Wilson unit. And what he said, frankly, it got me. It was very serious. And
he was where he wanted to be, exactly where he wanted to be, with exactly the people he wanted to be with when his life was taken. That was the message. That was the message that was transmitted. It stuns me that a member of Congress would have listened in on that conversation. Absolutely stuns me. And I thought at least that was sacred.
no.
You know, when I was a kid growing up, a lot of things were sacred in our country. Women were sacred and looked upon with great honor. That's obviously not the case anymore, as we see from recent cases.
Clearly.
Life, the dignity of life, was sacred. That's gone. Religion, that seems to be gone as well. Gold Star families, I think that left in the convention over the summer. But I just thought the selfless devotion that brings a man or woman to die on the battlefield, I just thought that that might be sacred. And when I listened to this woman and what she was saying and what she was doing on
This woman, meaning the Congresswoman.
TV, the only thing I could do to collect my thoughts was to go and walk among the finest men and women on this earth. And you can always find them because they're in Arlington National Cemetery.
Stunning. Absolutely stunning. And this from a man who lost his own son in Afghanistan, and this woman presumes to know about the military. I could say something mean and evil and rotten right now. I'm not going to do it because I'm going to continue on with the show, and I'm going to let you see and hear what the true leftist nature is like these days, because so many things are being exposed. And in a fashion in which Democrats, leftists, and the American media maggots, they didn't expect to be exposed. They expected to do the exposing themselves. I suspect that at this point there are only a limited number of people being shot in the foot, and it's not the intended target. But we'll get to that. First, I have some information about the Comey-Lynch airport meeting on the tarmac meeting as it was called. So, everyone, I'm guessing, perhaps not leftists, because a lot of them don't care about news. They just care about their own little world and navel-gazing. A lot of people remember the meeting between Democrat former President William Jefferson Clinton and then Attorney General Loretta Lynch at the Sky Harbor International Airport in Phoenix, Arizona, and that was on June 26th, 2016, last year. Now, leftists were swearing that it was nothing more than an innocent little meeting between Clinton and Lynch, who stopped to simply catch up on grandkids and such. That's why they decided they would stop a plane and meet with each other. Now, those of a more free-thinking and questioning spirit then looked upon the meeting as an update or a decision proffered to Clinton by Lynch regarding his wife, Hillary Clinton, who oddly enough was then in the midst of her own little homegrown server scandal, email server scandal. The FBI director at the time, who was James Comey, ex-FBI director, I so love to say that, had not yet released his opinion on the investigation of Hillary Clinton. That was done a little over a week later, on Tuesday, July 5th. So, let's see. That must be a total coincidence, right? To those with weak and uninquisitive minds, that is a total coincidence, like the American media maggots, leftists, Democrats. Okay, despite the fact that James Comey stated under oath he became influenced by the tarmac meeting between Lynch and Clinton, and by Lynch insisting that Comey refer to the Hillary Clinton investigation as a matter. So he knew he had to act, right?
To the decision to publicly go out with your results on the email.
So this is Select Committee of Intelligence Chairman Burr talking to James Comey in open session. This is in public.
Was your decision influenced by the Attorney General's tarmac meeting with the former President Bill Clinton?
Yes, in a ultimately conclusive way. That was the thing that capped it for me, that I had to do something separately.
That's right.
To protect the credibility of the investigation, which meant both the FBI and the Justice Department.
Were there other things that contributed to that you can describe in an open session?
There were other things that contributed to that. One significant item I can't. I know the committee's been briefed on. There's been some public accounts of it which are nonsense, but I understand the committee's been briefed on the classified facts. Probably the only other consideration that I guess I can talk about in open setting is...
Doesn't James Comey sound like he's full of honesty and reverence for law? This is a man you can trust.
At one point, the Attorney General had directed me not to call it an investigation, but instead to call it a matter, which confused me and concerned me. But that was one of the bricks in the load that led me to conclude I have to step away from the department if we're to close this case credibly.
And then you made a comment earlier about the Attorney General, previous Attorney General, asking you about the investigation on the Clinton emails, saying that you'd been asked not to call it an investigation anymore, but to call it a matter. And you had said that confused you. Can you give us additional details on that?
Well, it concerned me because we were at the point where we had refused to confirm the existence, as we typically do, of an investigation for months. And it was getting to a place where...
Until you go out of your way to insist that Trump is under investigation. You said that publicly. You asked permission to say it about Trump. Lie. That's a lie. Hello. It's not a prevarication. It's a lie.
Where that looks silly, because the campaigns were talking about interacting with the FBI in the course of our work. The Clinton campaign at the time was using all kinds of euphemisms, security review, matters, things like that for what was going on. We were getting to a place where the Attorney General and I were both going to have to testify and talk publicly about it. And I wanted to know, was she going to authorize us to confirm we had an investigation? And she said, yes, but don't call it that, call it a matter.
Right.
And I said, why would I do that? And she said, just call it a matter. And again, you look back in hindsight, you think, should I have resisted harder? I just said, all right, this isn't a hill worth dying on. And so I just said, okay, the press is going to completely ignore it. And that's what happened. When I said, we have opened a matter, they all reported the FBI has an investigation open. And so that concerned me because that language tracked the way the campaign was talking about the FBI.
Anybody smell anything?
His work, and that's concerning.
It gave the impression that the campaign was somehow using the same language as the FBI because you were handed the campaign language and told to be able to use the campaign language.
And again, I don't know whether it was intentional or not, but it gave the impression that the Attorney General was looking to align the way we talked about our work with the way a political campaign was describing the same activity. which was inaccurate. We had a criminal investigation open, with, as I've said before, the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Oh, he's so innocent. See how forthcoming he is? He uses all the right gestures. The proper tone in his voice conveys sincerity. This guy is sincere.
We had an investigation open at the time, and so that gave me a queasy feeling.
Thank you. Oh, no. It gave him a queasy feeling, meaning that as far as he was concerned, his ethics were being challenged. And, oh my gosh, you can't challenge his ethics because he's one of, if not the most ethical person in the FBI, correct?
Thank you.
And the answer is correct. Okay, so what did he say? He said, you've been criticized on your Clinton email decisions. Did you learn anything that would have changed how you chose to inform the American people? And that was the guy that was speaking earlier, the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Richard Burr. He asked the FBI director, and the FBI director said, honestly, no. It caused a lot of personal pain for me. I think it was the best way to protect the justice institution, including the FBI. Really, stop. Luckily, you have me to do the translation for you on that, because that does require translation. Meaning, it was the best way to protect James Comey. Nobody else. The FBI can and always will take a second seat to his own personal protection. Have you ever heard of an FBI director undermining an investigation publicly prior to him? Okay, do the math on that one. You guys smell on anything? James Comey subsequently became influenced, he said, to the point where he believed he was going to leak FBI documents in order to instigate an investigation, which that became the investigation that former FBI Director Robert Mueller is spearheading right now. Wait. Is that the same Robert Mueller that people are saying had something very significant to do with the Uranium One incident, where we decided it would be a great idea to give 20% of the stake of U.S. uranium to Russia? Yeah, I think that's the same Robert Mueller. I'm pretty sure. So, to those with questions, however, like Judicial Watch, the situation required answers in order to discover if there was a provable link between Comey's decision at the FBI and the meeting between Clinton and Lynch. Was the fix already in, at least a week prior to the announcement by then FBI Director James Comey? I'm sorry, ex-FBI Director James Comey. I just like to say that. Initially, Judicial Watch sued the FBI for the documents in October of 2016, a year ago. They were told by FBI representatives that no such documents could be located of the tarmac meeting between William Jefferson Clinton and Loretta Lynch. I guess they didn't exist. Okay, but because I search the internet and I can do the same shite that the American media maggots can do, but they refuse to, which is why I do the job the American media maggots don't. Let's remember that the New York Post wrote an article that contained this quote by an FBI agent about that meeting. Meanwhile, FBI agents expressed their, quote, disappointment over FBI Director James Comey's decision not to recommend charges against Clinton, sources close to the matter told the Post. This is a quote. FBI agents believe there was an inside deal put in place after the Loretta Lynch-Bill Clinton tarmac meeting, said one source, published in the Post. Another source from the Justice Department was, quote, furious with Comey, saying he's managed to piss off right and left. Okay, well, let's also remember, and I bought the book and I read it, Edward Klein's book called Guilty as Sin, which is definitely worth a reading. Edward Klein wrote in that book, in part, Bill Clinton's private jet was cleared for takeoff and was taxiing toward the active runway at Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport when a Secret Service agent informed him that Attorney General Loretta Lynch's plane was coming in for a landing. Don't take off, Bill barked. Instigated by William Jefferson Clinton. That meeting. Yeah, apparently so. So as his plane skidded to a halt and then headed back to its parking space, Bill grabbed a phone and called an old friend, one of his most trusted legal advisors. It was June 27, 2016, 1 year into the FBI investigation of Hillary Clinton's emails. Bill said, "I want to bushwhack Loretta," the advisor recalled. "I'm going to board her plane. What do you think?" And I said, "There's no downside for you, but she's going to take a pounding if she's crazy enough to let you on her plane." He knew it would be a huge embarrassment to Loretta when people found out that she'd talked to the husband of a woman, the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party, who was under criminal investigation by the FBI, the advisor continued. But he didn't give a damn, meaning Willie J. He wanted to intimidate Loretta and discredit FBI Director James Comey's investigation of Hillary's emails, which was giving Hillary's campaign a little bit of agitprop. Bill hung up the phone, turned to a Secret Service agent, and said as soon as her plane lands, get the Attorney General on the phone and say the President would like to have a word with her. Once inside Lynch's plane, Bill turned on the Clinton charm. He gave Lynch's shoulder an affectionate squeeze and shook hands with her husband, Stephen Hargrove. Bill said he could tell that Loretta Lynch knew from the get-go that she'd made a huge mistake, his advisor said. She was literally trembling, shaking with nervousness. Her husband tried to comfort her. He kept patting her back and rubbing her hand. Translated, again, because that's why you pay me such a lucrative contract with the SHR Media Network. I'm here to translate. Lynch knew exactly what she'd done and how it would look. Bill made small talk about golf and grandchildren and former Attorney General Janet Reno, and he kept at it for nearly a half hour. It didn't make any difference what they talked about. All he wanted to do was send a message to everyone at Justice and the FBI that Hillary had the full weight of the Clinton machine, the Democratic Party, and the White House behind her. It was clearly torturous for Loretta. Okay, this is my violin right here, my sad violin. You can't hear it because it's so small. It was clearly torturous for Loretta. Bill told me later that he noticed there were beads of sweat on her upper lip. Hey, what do you think, folks? Message sent and received? But wait, there's more. 1 week later, Barack Obama invited Hillary. This is important. 1 week later, Barack Obama invited Hillary to fly with him to North Carolina for a campaign rally. He wouldn't have let her use two of the greatest symbols of presidential power, Air Force One and the podium with the seal of the President of the United States, if he thought there was even the slightest chance that she was going to be indicted. Hello? Common sense. Are you listening now? But Attorney General Lynch had privately assured him that she wouldn't let that happen. And Edward Klein wrote, and the fix was in. Oh my, the fix? The fix? Not just the group. The fix was so in. Okay, now, about 1 year later, we discover the FBI made a discovery. Apparently some cabinet door or desk drawer was opened. And magically, now here we have this 30-page document related to that tarmac meeting that, wow, the Department of Justice just couldn't find. Or the FBI. There was a lot of shoulder shrugging over that, okay? There really was. Wait, no, it's not here. Well, yeah, it is.
The opposition research firm Democrats paid to compile the infamous Trump dossier.
This is Lou Dobbs.
Is now trying to fight congressional subpoenas.
Remember the Trump dossier?
Lawyers, noble lawyers for Fusion GPS and its founder Glenn Simpson say the House Intelligence Committee is acting in bad faith. Oh, this is just stunning stuff. And they are threatening to plead the Fifth Amendment and refuse to testify. Wow, there is a noble position. The FBI has located 30 documents connected to the controversial 2016 tarmac meeting between former President Bill Clinton and Attorney General Loretta Lynch. The papers detailing the interaction between the former president and Obama's Secretary of State will be...
By the way, just a little teaser. Have I got a story for you at the end of this? It just came out today, and it has to do with this. Listen, it has to do with the Russian dossier and why that's important. So keep that in mind. We're going to link all this. My job is to link all this shite up for you.
Be released next month. Judicial Watch requesting those records earlier this year. They were initially told by the Justice Department that those documents don't exist. Guess what? The Justice Department, should I say lied, or should I say they found out they were inaccurate?
Yeah.
We're joined by Tom Fitton. He is the president of Judicial Watch, and again...
Here's where it gets better. This is the president of Judicial Watch weighing in, Tom Fitton, on this situation. By the way, Judicial Watch, if you haven't been paying attention, was the firm that investigated the request, the FOIA request, and then took them to court for the documents.
You keep...
they ignored the FOIA request. They had to take them to court.
Counting coup here, another victory and another important one for the public's right to know, so congratulations.
Thank you.
And Tom, how can this be that the Justice Department doesn't know about these documents or chooses to just straight out lie to you and subsequently all of us?
Yeah, you got to ask what's going on. We had 2 lawsuits against both the Justice Department and the FBI.
Because they wouldn't cooperate with FOIA requests. They had to be sued. This is the future of government. They won't tell you a thing. You got to sue them. You got to take them to court. Why? Because it takes time and money.
The FBI said they looked, they couldn't find anything. The Justice Department lawsuit, we finally got some documents last month that showed that the Justice Department was talking to the FBI about the Clinton-Lynch tarmac meeting. So the FBI said, oh, well, it looks like we might have documents. We're going to reopen your case and go and find them.
Right.
And that's when we found out they have 30 documents. Look, the only reason, I don't think this was an oversight. I don't think this was a mistake. I think we caught them. We caught them red-handed.
Yes.
And now they've had to fess up to the documents.
As you've done more often than otherwise, they can't be straight. And this sort of tells you what the problem is. The American people have a government that is corrupt. The American people have a government. And it's not necessarily because someone takes money, although I'm sure there's lots of that. But it's so political, so politicized, it's politically corrupt. And
yes, it is. It's politically corrupt. And it's fiscally corrupt, and it's ethically corrupt. We're going to take a break. We're going to be right back because we've got more on Tom Fitton and Lou Dobbs. And again, tonight, because I'm skewering leftists, I'm making point after point after point after point that the American media maggots refuse to make, and that's why you listen to me. Folks, come right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
you got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean
Dude, I'm not saying calf for the stupid bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's big-footed enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR Media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Coming soon to Ossicles near you. Excelsior.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
You are, in fact, listening to the SHR Media Network. Let's adjust the... There we go. Now the headphones are better. We're live and direct on YouTube. We're live and direct on Facebook. We're live and direct on Lone Star TV. And you can also listen to us on Spreaker and shrmedia.com, where I'm assuming that some of you folks are listening right now. Speaking of listening, we were listening to Tom Fitton, who is the president of Judicial Watch, who had to sue the United States government to keep it honest, and he's talking to Lou Dobbs.
Ideologically corrupt. It's stunning stuff. And we, by the way, now that you've got word that you've got the documents, when do you actually get them, and what shape will they be in? Will there be words actually still on the pages when you get them?
Well, that's the big question. The government says they need up until November 30th to turn the documents over to us. So
30 pages. They can't read 30 pages in less than a month and a half.
Right, because they're using those really wide, the really wide Sharpies that just eradicate everything. At first you have to take a Sharpie training class. Then you have to take a Sharpie chisel point training class. Then you have to take a class on how to apply the Sharpie to the paper. By that time, look, really, give these guys a break. 2 weeks are gone, just in training.
Director Wray, who's now head of the FBI, there is a new head of the FBI after Comey was fired. I would think he might want to ask questions about what went on here. By the way, we were told no back when Comey was FBI director. Yeah, what did he? The idea they didn't know they had documents, just strange credulity. And this is why Wray and Jeff Sessions, to the degree he's not recused, because he may be recused from this, I don't know. Rod Rosenstein, whoever the responsible official, needs to take a look at this. This is a fundamental question of whether we can trust.
But they're all involved. All of them. They're all involved.
Our nation's law enforcement agency, the FBI and the Justice Department, not to break the law and not to be dishonest. Yeah, and we're in the middle of a court case here, and they tell us we don't have documents. What are we supposed to do? Go to the court every time saying the FBI is lying? We got to rely on the FBI and the Justice Department to tell us the truth.
Thank you. I'll get to that too.
Why people should have any other belief about the FBI now, then that's where investigations go to die. I can't think of a major scandal that has been resolved by the investigation of the FBI. Can you, Tom? I'm talking about going back to Fast and Furious, you name it.
IRS.
They never reach a conclusion. Benghazi, they never reach a conclusion. There's
IRS.
never a report.
There you go, IRS.
This is something rancid and wrong at Justice.
Well, especially when the Justice Department or the FBI are implicated in the scandals, you're never going to get the truth, or it's going to be difficult to do so. Just last week, we're asking for the Comey memos. We sued for the Comey memos that he supposedly wrote. The Justice Department came in and said, we can't have one of them, any of it. because it would interfere with Mueller's investigation. So now this Justice Department is working with Mueller to keep information that Comey leaked to the New York Times away from the American people.
And
unbelievable.
And the Republican Senate leadership and the Republican House leadership haven't got the guts to say enough.
They do nothing.
Go ahead.
2018.
We're way over. I'm going to have to get
2018.
All right? We'll take it up.
They do nothing, and that's the problem. And the GOP had better change its ways. Do you think they can? Do you think they can? Do you think they have the motivation yet to do that? Because let's don't forget, they had 8 years to craft a new Obamacare and to fix the ACA. And then they ran on the platform of, we're going to fix it. We are first going to repeal it, then we're going to replace it. Going back a little bit. So about that, is the DOJ incompetent or did the DOJ simply lie? Okay, it's got to be one or the other, right? It's no oversight. It's no mistake. Now, you know that I know this guy, that I really enjoy listening to him, and I like his opinion on things. Judge Andrew Napolitano, absolutely one of my favorite analysts, weighed in on October 16th. And he repeats in this what I call Beezy's DC axiom. And I said it last night, and I'll say it again forever. This is the axiom upon which everything in DC gets decided. The swamp. It's an institutional culture in government. We don't want to go after our predecessors because we don't want our successors to come after us. One hand washes the other's back. That's exactly
alert on those newly
what
uncovered
happens.
documents from the FBI. You know, the conservative watchdog group Judicial Watch says they are related to that controversial Phoenix Airport tarmac meeting between former President Bill Clinton and then Obama Attorney General Loretta Lynch. You may remember that meeting happening last year, and it happened just before a decision came down on whether or not there would be any indictments in the Hillary Clinton email case. Well, Judicial Watch says all 30 pages will be sent to them by the end of November in response to their Freedom of Information Act lawsuit.
Yeah, but what Tom Fitton says is true. What kind of state are they going to be in? Don't forget about that chisel, that 1-inch chiseled Sharpie. You need a training class for that.
And guess what?
Is there an app for that?
Say the FBI first told them they didn't have them. Judge Andrew Napolitano, senior Fox News judicial analyst, is with us. Judge, what is it with the FBI? So many times in cases that we cover,
that's a question.
They don't know what they have something.
I know.
The lawyers try to get something. They say, we don't have anything, and voila, poof, they get some evidence.
It's not just the FBI. It's almost all of the federal government. And the Trump State Department has done the same thing with Freedom of Information Act requests. There's an institutional, instinctual response. We don't have it, we don't have it, we can't find it. And then the person making the FOIA request files a lawsuit, and the federal judge says, look for it, and they find it. Now, in this case, we don't know what was found. We only know that the FBI, through lawyers in the Justice Department, told lawyers for Judicial Watch, a think tank that sues the government for transparency, that they found 30 or so documents relating to...
Stop. Because if they didn't do it, who would do it? Would the American media maggots do it? Oh, you know that answer.
This event.
And we don't know what those documents are.
Correct. We don't know what they show. We don't know who instigated the meeting. We don't know what the stated purpose of the meeting was. It may reinforce what Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch said they talked about. Their grandchildren. I'm doing air quotes because it sounds absurd that they would go through this length just to talk about their grandchildren. Right. Or if they really and truly did talk about whether or not the DOJ was going to seek Mrs. Clinton's indictment.
Yeah, I mean, look, this went on for 40 minutes or so. And Hillary Clinton, in her book, What Happened, said there was nothing inappropriate or said in any way, but both of them, meaning her husband and Loretta Lynch, came to regret exchanging pleasantries that day.
Well, this is also the stated purpose for Jim Comey's going rogue. That is,
thank you,
taking the ball away from his superiors in the Justice Department and deciding on his own whether or not, I say stated purpose, we don't know what's the real purpose, and deciding on his own whether or not to present evidence to a grand jury seeking Mrs. Clinton's indictment.
Meaning, James Comey, an FBI director, leaked FBI documents himself. Never in the history of the FBI has that occurred.
I've said this 100 times. In my opinion, there's more than enough evidence to have sought her indictment. But between this...
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to get to that.
Tarmac meeting between Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch and the decision by Jim Comey, she wasn't indicted. Well, could she be indicted today? Yes, the statute of limitations hasn't run. It's in Jeff Sessions' camp if he wants it.
How long does that did they run?
5 years.
So 5 years.
Excuse me, that statute is 7 years.
Okay.
7 years, there's plenty of time.
All right. And look what...
And again, I ask you, where's the fucking backbone of the GOP? Where's Trump putting a thumb or a foot on the neck of Jeff Sessions? And maybe that's the issue. Maybe that's the problem between he and Sessions. I still think Jeff Sessions should never have recused himself from anything to do with Russia. Sessions didn't have anything to do. He met with Kislyak. He was a senator. What do you think? He's shipping heroin in a handshake? Jeff Sessions is limp-wristed. Jeff Sessions has no backbone like the rest of the GOP, with some exceptions. There are some exceptions. But the bulk of the GOP is absolutely invertebrate.
Judicial Watch says about the FBI. They say the FBI, in their view, is, quote, out of control. Here's their statement. They say the FBI is out of control. It is stunning. The FBI found these Clinton-Lynch tarmac records only after we caught the agency hiding them in another lawsuit. We will continue to press for answers about the FBI document games in court. In the meantime, the FBI should stop the stonewall and release these new records immediately. There is significant controversy about whether the FBI and Obama Justice Department investigation gave Clinton and other witnesses and potential targets preferential treatment.
I am generally a fan of the FBI, but I agree with the Judicial Watch criticism that you just read. Again, the culture in Washington. Let's protect our predecessors in the hope that our successors will protect us. That's not their job. Their job is to find and reveal documents that are...
That's true for the swamp, and that's true for the politicians. Both.
Sought unless there's some legitimate privilege claimed, in which case a judge decides that they stay secret.
And could we get an indication by the nature of these documents whether or not they are indeed sensitive and the FBI was trying to hide something, or if they're just regular bureaucrats?
Well, the FBI has revealed the existence of 30 of them. If they turn over 25, they're going to have to say what they did with the other 5, why they didn't turn them over, and a judge gets to review them.
All right. And I imagine with the judge reviewing them, that will give some neutral observer
well, it's a neutral person deciding whether or not there's a statement, a reason in the statute, in the law, for not turning them over.
Okay.
And again, it's going to depend on what judge it is.
Well,
absolutely
this
correct.
Judge will be reading them. I know that. Judge Napolitano.
Absolutely correct.
Thank you so much.
That's why leftists go judge shopping. That's why they went to the judge in Hawaii, because they know he's favorable to them. So if you can get one federal judge to stymie everything, and that's what they've done. But wait, there's more. Again, from FoxNews.com, Judicial Watch clashes with the DOJ over talking points from the Lynch-Clinton tarmac meeting. Conservative watchdog group Judicial Watch is clashing with the Trump Justice Department itself over access to talking points the DOJ prepared under the Obama administration to explain the controversial tarmac meeting between Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton last year. They knew it was wrong. Bill Clinton knew it was wrong. She knew it was wrong. Everyone knew it was wrong. Everyone knew it was a conflict of interest, and yet it still occurred. That's purposeful. I can think of no other reason for it. Judicial Watch is seeking the documents as part of a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit. The group complained late Wednesday that it had received heavily redacted emails pertaining to the department's internal preparations last year to press inquiries on the Lynch-Clinton meeting. In other words, Not only will they not give the documents they don't want to give up and will fucking heavily redact with that big 1-inch chiseled Sharpie, they want to redact the emails about the process. So not only can you find anything of substance, you can't even find anything discussing the substance. And that's how far it's gone. That's how deep it is. That's how deep the deep state is. Judicial Watch says Peter Kadzik, then Assistant Attorney General, was involved in handling the Justice Department response to media inquiries regarding the tarmac meeting at the time. But one email exchange shows a redacted response from him to an email with the subject line, Draft, Statement Talking Points, on June 28, 2016. Another email shows the Director of the Justice Department's Public Affairs Office, Melanie Newman, emailing with colleagues to flag a story about a casual, unscheduled meeting between former President Bill Clinton and the AG. That's why I want you to hear tonight, folks, just how incredibly rife with corruption is your government, and more pointedly, and even more sadly, your federal law enforcement agencies. Okay, first, it's crystal clear from the evidence released by the FBI after the first investigation that the former Secretary of State did, in fact, use a private email server to transmit national security information rather than safeguard that information as required by law, and that subsequently Hillary Clinton made statements contrary to the facts that everybody continued to learn. Second, the real actor in this theater of the absurd is the Justice Department's decision to commence an investigation that was a sham from the very beginning. After all, it was the Justice Department that failed to convene a grand jury. It was the Justice Department that failed to issue search warrants for computers. It was the Justice Department who failed to place witnesses under oath. And it was the Justice Department that failed to appoint a special prosecutor who could operate free from conflicts of interest. Hey, just like Robert Mueller, right? Just like that guy. Then FBI Director James Comey cleared Hillary Clinton of all wrongdoing on July 5th of 2016, last year. Comey admits that Hillary lied. But here's the difference. You can lie publicly all you want if people are sufficiently stupid to believe it, like much of the electorate and the American media maggots are doltish enough because they want to. It's their agenda. But you shouldn't lie to the FBI. My guess is that Hillary Clinton came relatively clean in 3.5 hours. Folks, I've grilled people for 8 hours, 10 hours on a much lesser crime than that. And that's why I believe she was not placed under oath and the interview was not recorded. Why? Things like that make it easier. Things that they haven't done like that make it much easier to dispute later when it's politically necessary. I have always said, if it is, and I used to say this to my trainees as a law enforcement officer, because that's how far politics go. It's true then to my TOs. It's true now, definitely in D.C. If it is fiscally or politically expedient, you will be sacrificed. Simply that. But Jason Comey outed himself, though, to Jason Chaffetz. Chaffetz then asked whether it was he that was just not able to prosecute it or if Clinton actually broke the law. And that was when Comey came up with this answer. Well, I don't want to give an overly lawyerly answer. The question I always look at is there's evidence that would establish beyond a reasonable doubt that somebody engaged in conduct that violated a criminal statute. And in my judgment, there is not. Okay, and so this is how James Comey attempts to rationalize his decision. He states his case did not establish guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you see an issue there? This is a news flash. Hello, James Comey. It's not up to you, Director Comey, former Director James Comey, I just like to say that, to assemble a case that yields a determination of beyond a reasonable doubt. That threshold is up to the DOJ, or more pointedly, a grand jury, not to you, Jimmy, or your organization. All you need to do is compile a case for submission, and all you need is probable cause. And that's what real cops do, and that's what real DAs do in America. They do their jobs, and they stay in their lanes, and they do their jobs. So I've said this time and again, and I'm going to say it again, because, again, this is all linked. It's all interlinked. All this corruption, and it's coming around. That part, the coming around aspect, I find actually glorious. There are two kinds of crimes as written by statute: those of general intent and those of specific intent. So Comey stated that Hillary Rodham Clinton had to have possessed a very specific intent to commit her crimes, except that the U.S. codes that are applicable to that are not those of specific intent, because they don't include the phrase with intent to. That's how you can tell if it's a crime of general intent or specific intent. It says so in the statute. Bing! Hello. But again, that's how stupid most people are. James Comey thought he could pull the wool over my eyes. And a lot of other people. And he got away with it. Even more disturbing, Attorney General Lynch did not recuse herself from the final decision on whether to prosecute the case, nor did she give that decision to a career prosecutor of the Department of Justice. She just instead prejudged the case by just blindly accepting the FBI's recommendation. The New York Times on July 1st, 2016 wrote this: A.G. Lynch said she would accept whatever recommendation career prosecutors and the FBI director made. Well, of course she would. Of course she's going to say that. The fix is in. Comey was predestined to take whatever fall occurred, not her. What she did is she just placed that decision and she pushed it down. She pushed the decision down to her. She gave him carte blanche. Yeah, you can make the mistake, dude, not me. I like my job, and I want to keep it. But wait! There's more. We got 5 more minutes before the break. From FoxNews.com. You're going to love this. This is, again, glorious. Comey drafted letter on Clinton email investigation before completing interviews. FBI confirms. The FBI released documents this Monday, proving former FBI Director James Comey began drafting a letter regarding Hillary Clinton's email investigation months before conducting several key interviews, including speaking to Clinton herself. The document release was titled, quote, Drafts of Director Comey's July 5th, 2016 Statement Regarding the Email Server Investigation, Part 1 of 1. The contents of the email were largely unclear, as nearly all of it was, repeat after me, redacted. The now public records show the email titled Mid-Year Exam Unclassified was sent by Comey on May 2nd, 2016 to Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. Yeah, these names keep coming back, don't they? Like a bad case of diarrhea. General Counsel James Baker and the Chief of Staff and Senior Counselor James Rybicki. On May 16th, the document showed a response email from Rybicki saying, please send me any comments on this statement so we may roll into a master doc for discussion with the director at a future date. Thanks, Jim. Hello. You may as well just do the handshake right now. Hello. It's like fix, meet in. Okay, there you go. Shake hands and keep dissembling. Woohoo, America. The existence of the documents reported by Newsweek were first brought to light by Senator Chuck Grassley, a Republican from Iowa, chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and Senator Lindsey Graham, also a member of the committee, after they reviewed transcripts of interviews with top Comey aides who alluded to the email's existence. Unless they'd spoken, they would never have known about the emails. The Senate Judiciary Committee is investigating Comey in his role as FBI director and President Trump's decision to fire him in May. Wrong. January 20th. Boom. Gone. Done. You're gone. Midnight at the Oasis. Get your arse out of the FBI building on Pennsylvania. The senators penned a letter on August 30th to newly appointed FBI Director Christopher Wray, noting their findings, saying that it appears that in April or early May of 2016, Mr. Comey had already decided he would issue a statement exonerating Secretary Clinton. That was long before FBI agents finished their work, the letter said. The outcome of an investigation should not be prejudicial while FBI agents are still hard at work trying to gather the facts. But of course, the American media maggots are not all over this. Or wait, maybe they are. Maybe I'm just not seeing it. You're going to have to tell me. Do you see this stuff on TV? Are they just ripping through this 24/7, day and night? We have to find the truth. Isn't that what they're saying? We have to find the truth. The truth is out there.
Welcome back to the White House. The FBI is releasing documents confirming that then FBI Director James Comey began drafting his public statement about the Hillary Clinton email investigation 2 months before.
This is joyous, by the way. This is Brett Baer on Special Report, and he's going to talk to one of, again, my favorite people in D.C., Trey Gowdy.
It was complete. Joining me now with reaction is South Carolina Congressman Trey Gowdy. He's the chairman of the House Oversight Committee and a member of the House Intelligence and Judiciary Committees. He's in Greenville tonight. Yep. Congressman, thanks for being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I think I left out ethics. You're on every committee, I guess. Thanks for being here. Listen to this soundbite from a hearing.
Did you make the decision not to recommend criminal charges relating to classified information before or after Hillary Clinton was interviewed by the FBI on July the 2nd?
Now, know what you know now? Listen to what he says. This is Director Comey speaking under oath. Under oath.
After. If colleagues of ours believe I am lying about when I made this decision, please urge them to contact me.
Wait.
Make the decision not to recommend criminal charges relating to classified information before or after Hillary Clinton was interviewed by the FBI on July the 2nd?
After. If colleagues of ours believe I am lying about...
That is a lie. Now we know it. It's a lie. Under oath, in public, in testimony.
About when I made this decision, please urge them to contact me privately so we can have a conversation about this. All I can do is tell you again, the decision was made after that because...
That's 2 times. 2 times a lie. Jesus. Okay.
Documents that suggest that that decision was made well before that time. Your thoughts on all of this?
Okay, tell you what. We're going to go to a break. We're going to come back, and we're going to listen to Trey Gowdy because he's going to tell you some interesting things about James Comey, and then he's also going to tell you some very interesting things about Samantha Power. And again, how this is intertwined. Folks, come right back. Thanks for listening live. Thanks for listening and interacting in chat. And thanks for listening in podcast. Be right back on the SHR Media Network.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch River Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Power brokers use corrupt politicians, deceptive Islam, and lies from establishment media to turn the once shining city on a hill into the city of the blind. What do the elites fear? One man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me at SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Spreaker, iTunes, and YouTube for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hello, I'm Tim Hart. I'm the guy BZ hires due to his shameless contract with the SHR Media Network to voice his promos. He'd like me to tell you that the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be found on SHR Media Network, Spreaker, and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American media maggots won't. You'll find that the speech is free, but the drinks are not. There, in the saloon, just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ is sending his personal drones of freedom into the wheelhouses and ossicles of lovers of sovereignty and liberty nationally and globally. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, BZ swears that no rights were harmed in the making of this promo.
This is Jersey Joe, host of the Reverb Common Sense, and you're listening to SHRmedia.com.
Thanks, Jersey Joe. Thank you very much. You are, in fact, listening to the SHRmedia.com on the SHR Media Network and also on Lone Star TV and on Lone Star Radio, courtesy of the ever-ebullient Dan Butcher. We were listening, to Trey Gowdy talk to Brett Baer about this little funny thing called the decision and the timing of it and whether James Comey lied, prevaricated, whatever it is that you may want to call it. Trey Gowdy, please continue, sir.
Well, Brett, we're going to take him up on his offer. We are going to talk to his president and former colleagues. May the 2nd is when these memos, these heavily redacted memos, appear where they are discussing internally whether or not to make a charging decision. It is a month and a half later before he announces his decision in early July. So you got, that's 2 months. 2 months from May the 2nd until July the 5th. There were 24 witness interviews in that time period. So if you're discussing whether or not to charge someone in early May and you haven't interviewed 24 witnesses, including one named Clinton, John Ratcliffe asked exactly the right question. I'm just not sure that Director Comey gave him an accurate answer.
I interviewed then Attorney General Loretta Lynch. I asked her this about this investigation.
Boy, Trey Gowdy is being nice. I guess they sort of have to.
Does it concern you, though, that there is this perception that your Justice Department may, in the end, cut Secretary Clinton a break or do her a favor?
With every case, we handle it in the same way, and that's what I'd like to convey to the American people.
She's so sincere.
Now,
so sincere.
Comey said that the tarmac meeting between Loretta Lynch and former President Bill Clinton was what precipitated his action of taking it essentially from DOJ. But that doesn't seem
action, meaning he leaked. Let's be honest, he leaked.
To add up.
No, the chronology does not add up. Again, May the 2nd is when they are discussing their charging decision. The meeting on the tarmac was June 26th, June 27th. So that's a month and a half later. And then a couple of days later, they interview Secretary Clinton. And then 2 days later, they decide that they're not going to charge. And he makes that public pronouncement. So his ostensible reason for taking that decision.
And you already know that the reasoning that James Comey used for saying, well, we're not going to do anything with Hillary Clinton, that reasoning in itself was flawed. And he lied to you, the American taxpayer. And he lied to me, except I knew what he was talking about. It's the law. And he's no more interested in enforcing the law than the man in the moon.
Away from the Department of Justice was that meeting on the tarmac, but yet a month and a half earlier, he is memorializing a decision he's already made. So the chronology does not add up. His answers have been all over the map to both the Intelligence Committee and the clip you just played from Oversight. So we need to talk to him again, but we need to look at these memos before we have that conversation with him.
So you would like to see Comey back testifying on Capitol Hill?
For a number of reasons. He made a lot of decisions in 2016 that I think are worth reviewing. You know, Brett, whenever somebody decides to charge someone, there are lots of layers of scrutiny. When you decide not to charge someone, there aren't that many layers of scrutiny, but there ought to be at least a couple. The media should do it, but also Congress should look at this.
The media are in the tank. They're in the bag for the Clintons and anything on the left.
Decision not to charge, and whether or not it was made before you interviewed 24 witnesses, including the target of the investigation, yeah, we need to talk to him again.
Loretta Lynch is up on the Hill Friday, we're told. Will she be asked any of this?
I don't think so. She's appearing before the House Intelligence Committee, and it will be limited to the scope of the Russia investigation, although you raise a good point. There are lots of reasons to talk to Loretta Lynch also, including to either corroborate or contradict Jim Comey's recollection.
Okay, stop. Listen to what Trey Gowdy is saying. Basically what he's saying is that Loretta Lynch is going to go back and testify under oath. But they're not going to ask her any questions about this.
He talked to her about his decision to appropriate the Clinton server decision onto himself, but not on Friday. That will be restricted to what did Russia do and with whom did they do it.
There's a lot of investigations. Obviously, the Russia investigation, the Bob Mueller special counsel investigation. You are also looking and have talked to the former ambassador to the United Nations, Samantha Power.
Now, this is where it starts to get a little bit interesting, and you have to be very careful with what he says, and then you have to do what I call the logical extension. In other words, what does this mean? And Trey Gowdy's going to say some very interesting things about Samantha Power and the process.
He reported that she requested, or her office requested, some 260-plus efforts to unmask, in other words, get who was talking and picked up in surveillance. How did she answer that question? Why?
Yeah, why
So many.
Well, I'll tell you broadly, Brett, I think if she...
Oh, this is delicious. This is just delicious. We've got another 50 minutes left of this show, and I'm going to wrap it up with an article that is going to blow your brain away.
If you were on your show, she would say those requests to unmask may have been attributed to her, but they greatly exceed by an exponential factor the request she actually made. So that's her testimony, and she was pretty emphatic in it. The surveillance community, the intelligence community has assigned this number of requests to her. Her perspective, her testimony is, they may be under my name, but I did not make those requests. So,
okay, then who did under her name? Well, the intimation is that, well, it would probably be people in her office who did that. Wouldn't you think so?
We've got to get to the bottom of that. If there is someone else making requests on behalf of a principal in the intelligence community, we need to know that, because we're getting ready to reauthorize a program that's really important to the country, but also has a masking component to it.
Thank you. Do you remember back in 2016, Obama signed a flurry of bills. One of them was to expand the ability of this to occur, unmasking, to any number of agencies. It was limited initially to the CIA and to the FBI, and a few like that, the NSA. Now, just about every agency in the federal government involving law enforcement can do it. Why? Why?
4 quick questions, and that is, any word back from the White House on your request for information about the use of private emails here?
Yes, sir. On the issue of private email and private travel, we have 3 categories.
Okay, stop just for a second. Samantha Power. She worked for the UN. Now, she did have security in interest for a while, but that wasn't her sole job throughout the administration. So under her guise, under her name, she had made at least one unmasking request a day. Why did she need to do that? Do we know who it was? Because if it's being done under her name, then it's not functioning. It's not working. Can anyone walk into that office and say, I want to unmask blah, blah, blah? Because I might have a little bit of a personal interest in this. And apparently the answer might be, well, yeah, maybe. Or who has access to that? Who has the safekeeping responsibility for that?
Fully complied, partially complied, and ain't really done a good job yet. The third category, we have written those agencies back and said, okay, you didn't respond the first time, this is number 2, and if you don't do it number 2, the word's going to start with an S and rhyme with subpoena.
Lastly, there are Democrats.
Okay, Mary Brockman, you asked in chat, what is it that these committees actually have the teeth to do? And the answer is truly not much. There's a lot of talking that goes on, but they do have the ability to issue subpoenas to make people come before the committee and testify. But the biggest thing that people don't understand about committees is they have no enforcement authority. That authority is completely lacking in committees.
And social media is picking it up that this White House, this president, hasn't really talked about what happened in Niger with these 4 special forces soldiers who were killed. People.
Well, now he's going off topic, and I don't much care about that right now because that's a sad thing, and that's another issue entirely, and we heard what John Kelly had to say about that initially. Okay, so why? You have to ask yourself why. There are reasons. Why have you not heard that astounding information about James Comey, that he wrote the memo months exonerating Hillary Clinton, months before he actually did it? So, to me, hello, again, fix meat in. What other conclusion could you draw from that if you're a sane, thinking individual? And the American media maggots are not covering it at all. The American media maggots are not covering it at all. You know why. Agenda, narrative. Pick one, pick both. I said, and I wrote this back in 2016. Every once in a while I say it because now, oh my God, is it ever being proven true day by day, hour by hour. Just hang on. It's coming. There's more. Oh, but wait. There's more. I stated that this false emphasis on President Donald Trump and Russia in order to account for Hillary Rodham Clinton's absolutely corrupt and disastrous abortion of a campaign. And it occurred because the Democrats and the leftists haven't even stepped into the next day. They haven't even stepped into November 9th at all. The insistence of narrative pressure will surely arc back like a fine-bladed boomerang, and it's going to embed itself in their arses. Guess what? Yeah, it has. And there's more to come. We are discovering more with each passing day. How the Democrats are like putty in the hands of Russians, as we certainly believed and suspected, and that the exposure isn't on the side of Trump or his team, it's with the Democrats. Hillary Clinton's Russian uranium, anyone? 20%, anyone? And hello, bladed boomerang, meet Democrat, leftist, and American media maggot ass. Because it's coming, and it's here. Now, the next story has a great deal to do with the story that I just told you. The headline is this: there are more First Amendment regulatory threats coming from the FEC and the FCC. Okay. Why would that be? Leftists and the deep state, and this is a truism, leftists and the deep state can't wait to continue pushing for the diminishment and the possible erasure of your First Amendment rights. It's already happening on campuses all across the fruited plain. The FEC has been after the Drudge Report, of all things, for years. So has the FCC. This, on its face, it's a ridiculously stupid goal. But that's how they perceive the power of the Drudge Report. Matt Drudge hasn't actually written a thing for years. If you remember, he was the guy that broke the semen stain on the blue dress of Monica Lewinsky. That's where he got his fame. But his brilliance was in marketing, and his brilliance was creating the Drudge Report. His site, if you look at it, it's nothing more than a laughingly simplistic point on the internet that it does nothing more than aggregate stories from around the globe. It is a collector. It collects stories from around the globe. Yeah, that's right. So all the Drudge Report does is it just repackages stories written entirely from external sources, not from him, not from his writers. His source material is frequently, let's see, who? Oh, that's right. The New York Times, the Boston Globe, the Los Angeles Times, the Washington Post, Reuters, the Associated Press, Slate, the Huffington Post, NPR, The Guardian, all bastions of left-leaning journalism. He uses them as source material. No, okay, so no matter, and again, as I've said, another BZ axiom, never let facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, or common sense get in the way of a good fucked up leftist inclination, decision, or a bill in the Senate or Congress. Not surprisingly, it's a push. Here we go. Another push from the FEC once again. From the WashingtonExaminer.com. Drudge Facebook New York Times readers. You're going to blow your top. Drudge Facebook New York Times readers could face libel suits for sharing fake news. That means that BZ could potentially be on a site, and he's on his smartphone like this, and look, there's a good story, and I want to share that on Twitter. Boonk. Okay, shared. Hey, I have a Facebook account. Let's put it on that too. Punk. Click. Maybe Instagram too. Punk. Click. I just shared those things. You think they're not coming after you? Political content on the internet, paid or not, should face substantial federal regulation to eliminate undefined disinformation, okay? And users of platforms and news feeds from Facebook to Twitter to the Drudge Report and even the New York Times could be punished for sharing fake news from those sites. The former Democrat chair of the FEC is saying, in a broad proposal that adds threatening libel suits to regulatory plans already pushed by Democrats on the Federal Election Commission, ex-chair Ann Revelle reveals that there is support for expanded regulation in the wake of reports foreign governments spent $100,000 on 2016 political ads on Facebook. $100,000 for ads isn't cat crap. Okay, so at whom precisely do you think this proposal is aimed, huh? Yeah, correct. You and me. People interested in politics who have sites on the internet as well as a social media presence. People who conduct internet radio shows like me. That's next. Make no mistake. She would include fake news, not just paid ads, to be regulated, though it's never defined other than the Democrats' description of disinformation. And anybody who shares or retweets it could face a libel suit. Friends, this is a page ripped right from the former Soviet Union, okay? Your gulag awaits you. She would also use regulation to improve voter competence, according to the new proposal titled Fool Me Once, The Case for Government Regulation of Fake News. Revelle, this is telling, who now lectures at Berkeley, still has allies on the FEC who support internet regulation. Berkeley, of course, right? The current locus of free speech in America. The proposal immediately came under fire from the Republican FEC commissioner, who for years has been warning of the left's effort to regulate political talk they don't like, especially on conservative news feeds like Drudge. Lee Goodman said this: Ann's proposal is a full-blown regulation of all political content, even discussion of issues, posted at any time for free or for a fee on any online platform from Facebook to the NewYorkTimes.com. He was especially critical of the undefined nature of disinformation to be regulated and the first ever call for libel suits to snuff out talk that Revell doesn't like. You see where this is going? Okay, then you have to, it's another of BZ's if-then equations. If you have disinformation, then just who makes that determination of what constitutes disinformation? The Russians have a name for it, kompromat, or disinformatia. Tovarish, da? Okay. A panel of conservatives are going to make this decision? Or a panel of leftists are going to make this decision? Yeah, correct. Leftists. Conservatives won't be allowed within 10 miles of any kind of a determination. We already know that. In their proposal, the trio wrote, after a social media user clicks share on a disputed item, if the platforms do not remove them and only label them as disputed, government can require that the user be reminded of the definition of libel against a public figure. This is fucking communist China. Libel of public figures requires actual malice, though, defined as knowledge of falsity or reckless disregard for the truth. Sharing an item that has been flagged as untrue might trigger liability under libel laws. Okay, so do what I said. What didn't I already say? Okay, we have speech crimes in leftist land, right? Okay, now they're going to be click crimes. Mind crimes are next. Read 1984. It'll make you sick. It's here. Then this. Okay, you're going to enjoy this. Then there's this from Yahoo News for reference. And you're going to love who's pushing this one. U.S. bill to regulate the internet and its ads gains bipartisan support with John McCain. From Reuters, U.S. legislation that would impose new disclosure requirements on political ads that run on Facebook and other websites received support on Wednesday from Senator John McCain, giving a bipartisan boost to a bill already popular among Democrats. McCain, a longtime supporter of regulating campaign finances, and two Democrat senators, Amy Klobuchar and Mark Warner, plan to introduce the bipartisan legislation on Thursday, today, according to a statement from their offices yesterday. Oh, good old John McCain. You can pretty much generally count on him, right, to put his thumb right in the eyes of freedom of speech anymore, or anything that he perceives President Trump might possibly support or have an interest in. Oh, BZ, did you just nail it there? Yeah, thank you, BZ, just nailed it. Online political ads are much more loosely regulated in the United States than political ads on television, radio, and satellite services. The lack of regulation was highlighted last month when Facebook, Alphabet Incorporated's Google, and Twitter said that they have found election-related ad bugs on their servers, on their services made by people in Russia in the run-up to last year's U.S. presidential election. Non-Americans are generally not allowed to spend money to influence U.S. elections. How about this? Let me just throw this out there for your consideration. How about instead of law after law after law, we just ask the social media to be maybe a little bit more wary? I think they'd cooperate because they're certainly all in on that Trump-Russia collusion. Anybody think of that? Hey, speaking of loving John here, here's a bit of witty repartee between John McCain and Fox's Peter Doocy, who dares ask John McCain if he might be a bit in the tank. Oh, McCain, he gets a wee bit testy on this one.
And in fact, Senator McCain, I mean, I want you to listen to how he responded to one of our reporters' questions.
Has your relationship with the president frayed to the point that you are not going to support anything that he comes to you and asks for?
Why would you say something that stupid? Why would you ask something that dumb? Huh? My job as a United States Senator is a senator from Arizona, which I was just reelected to. You mean that I am somehow going to behave in a way that I'm going to block everything because of some personal disagreement? That's a dumb question.
Yeah, well, it actually has credence for a couple of reasons there, dude. That question by Ducey seems to have merit, if you ask me, these days. Let's see, John, let's think about this for a second. Would you, okay? Would that possibly be because you are in fact so vehemently opposed to most anything and everything that President Trump has proposed, that you have worked hand in hand with the Democrats to slaughter the repeal of the ACA, much less any fucking replacement, right? You know, the very thing you ran on for 8 years and your most current election in Arizona, as well as the slaughter of tax cuts. Tax cuts. Okay, Democrats don't like them. Conservatives generally do. Not John McCain. Repealing Obamacare, conservatives generally like that. Not John McCain. And he says, well, that's a dumb question. Hey, John, perhaps some of those things that Peter Ducey was talking to and referring to. And let's see. John, have you forgotten, by the way, what you said in Philadelphia a couple of weeks ago, October? It was Monday. Let's see. No, it was this Monday, October the 16th. Philadelphia. An emotional Senator John McCain on Monday leveled a blistering attack on what he called the, listen to this, he called the half-baked, spurious nationalism that seems to have inspired President Trump's administration to what he considers to retreat from the world stage. In a speech to accept some kind of a stupid medal, McCain says that the United States is a land made of ideals, not blood and soil. Well, maybe that's an insight as to why he's a friend of immigration. Not blood, not soil. You shouldn't be proud of your blood. You shouldn't be proud of your soil. And if you're a nationalist, if you believe in your country, now that's half-baked and spurious. From John McCain. At times, McCain drew applause and cheers at the Republican event, or the Philadelphia event, when he said, "To fear the world we have organized and led for 3/4 of a century, to abandon the ideals we've advanced around the globe, to refuse the obligations of international leadership and our duty to remain the last best hope on earth for the sake of some half-baked, spurious nationalism cooked up by people who would rather find scapegoats than solve problems, is as unpatriotic as an attachment to any other tired dogma of the past that Americans consigned to the ash heap of history." Let's see. John McCain, I'm sorry you have brain cancer, but I only have 2 words for you. John McCain. Can anyone guess? Yeah, fuck you.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying cow for the stupid pro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's big-footed enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR Media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Coming soon to Ossicles near you. Excelsior.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we are in the final segment of the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon tonight, and I'm doing my level best as best I can to attempt to skewer the leftists, tell you and show you what they're up to, and I'm hoping that I'm going to have the ability to tie it all up for you with a particular article that I'm thinking of. Hey, does anybody remember this, by the way? Thanks for listening, I should say. Thanks for listening live. Thanks for listening in podcast. Thanks for being in the chat room. Reactionaries, great to see you there. Mary Brockman. We had Mike. Lots of other folks. Whiskey Dale. Of course, Dave Milner. Anybody hear this? Networks to help NFL by not airing national anthem protest on TV. So, gee, weren't we just talking about basically the suppression of the First Amendment? Well, now the networks have decided that they're going to refuse to show the pledge. And the players will just do it, summertime, some other time. They're going to do it. But as they're doing it, they'll cut away. There'll be a talking head talking about something, and we don't want to rouse the folks there. It might kind of piss them off because of that. Yeah, really. Okay. Did anybody happen to see this, by the way? And I'm trying to scroll through and find it. Here we go. Our good friend John McCain and the GOP deciding that they're not going to coalesce. So this article right here, this information, it shouldn't surprise you, should it? House Dems outpaced GOP by nearly 9 million in the third quarter. The Democrat Congressional Campaign Committee outpaced its GOP counterpart in the third fundraising quarter by nearly $9 million. I wonder why that would be. The DCCC raised $8.9 million in September, bringing the committee's third quarter fundraising total to $21.4 million, according to figures tweeted by the DCC's executive director. That's compared to the National Republican Committee Chairman, Congressional Committee, NRCC, which raised $4.9 million in September and brought in $12.5 million in the third quarter, according to figures. The NRCC ended September with $38.4 million cash on hand. Where does this go? To campaigns all across the United States. Yeah. As the committee gears up for the 2018 midterm elections, both parties will be fiercely battling over the House majority. Democrats will need to flip 24 seats next year if they want to take back the lower chamber. So who do you suspect is helping to contribute to this flush of cash? I think you have that sussed out. Let me tell you a little bit more about the FEC. The FEC is the Federal Elections Commission, and they have a great bit of power that they want to influence over you.
Federal Elections Commission Vice Chair Ann M. Ravel says it's time to end the Internet's free ride when it comes to campaign ads and regulate them on the Internet just like they already are on your local TV station. Now, is this an idea whose time has come, or is it yet another ploy to stifle free speech? I'm Steve Green. This is Trifecta, and with me now the rest of your Trifecta crew, Scott Ott and Bill Whittle. Gents, back in 2006, the FEC exempted free Internet sites like Mind at Vodka Pundit or Scrapple Face or Eject, or even Daily Kos, exempted them from the rules and that the TV and radio stations or even paid sites already play by. So late on Friday, Ann Ravel released a memo outlining her plans for taking these existing rules and implementing them more widely. Here's what she wrote. She said the commission failed to take into account clear indicators that the Internet would become a major source of political advertising dominated by the same political organizations that dominate traditional media. Since its inception, this effort to protect individual bloggers and online commenters has been stretched to cover slickly produced ads aired solely on the Internet but paid for by the same organizations and the same large contributors as the actual ads aired on TV.
You know, one of the things that I always liked about the Internet, if you're smart, if you know something about HTML, you can make your individual site every bit as pretty and dynamic and glorious and wonderful and attractive as the site for the Rolls-Royce motor car, or the site for Bentley, or the site for Apple. It sort of leveled the playing field for a lot of people. And it's still sort of I enjoy the Wild West aspect of it. But now, because you and I, folks, are starting to become so effective in terms of getting our message across, because look what we just did. We stifled Hillary Rodham Clinton, and we did not allow her, though she was the anointed one, we didn't allow her to become president of the United States. And trust me that many plans that were made to have her sit right in that chair, to fly around with Obama in Air Force One, and speak behind the podium carrying the label of the president, the seal of the president of the United States of America, that didn't happen. And because they tried to cheat that way, and they certainly cheated with Bernie Sanders, and they didn't get their wish. Now it's all knives out, all guns blazing against Donald Trump. And they're going to do it any fucking way they can. Anybody and everybody be damned, including the country and its safety as well.
Now, Scott, as a rule of law conservative, don't you agree that bloggers should have to play by the same rules as everybody else, especially when it comes to expensive ads produced by organizations founded by, well, say, the Koch brothers?
Well, go to my blog, and I'm sure you're going to see a lot of ads on my blog. And the Koch brothers, by the way, I shouldn't be telling you this, but the Koch brothers are throwing handfuls. Literally, I can't put my hands around them, how much cash they give me on a daily basis almost. Thank God for the Koch brothers, right?
Well, to tell you the truth, I was all for the heavy regulation of political advertising as long as I was exempted. I mean, it just seemed right to impose that kind of regulation on other people. But now that they're trying to put it on me, I've come to a different view suddenly. You know, here's my view on this is actually they shouldn't regulate any of it. It should be free speech. And if some...
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is about free speech. It's about the Bill of Rights, and it's about the First Amendment and the constant fight by the left to eliminate the Bill of Rights because it would oh so please them.
Somebody wants to get on TV and lie their tail off, they should get on TV and lie their tail off and face the consequences for that.
And they do. Every day.
The great thing about the internet age is that we have fact-checking out the wazoo now being done by people who used to be considered rank amateurs.
Like me, Like you, like anybody else that has a blog, that's the other thing that the American media maggots hate. They've lost power. They were the all-powerful, the almighty Oz. Never look behind the curtain. Always obey what Oz says. They were the gatekeepers for literally decades. And now the technology has changed all that. Coupled with the fact that their philosophies are tanking them, setting them on fire, and kicking them out the 32nd story window in flames as they fall to the concrete below. Their newsrooms bleed staff. Their advertisers are going away. They're bleeding and hemorrhaging readers and cash. And as a result, they don't like it very much. So the FCC had to step in, and the FEC, Federal Election Commission, had to step in. If for no other reason than they could think of a really, we can't have that free speech thingy here because that stymies our ability to lie to the electorate and not be challenged in any way whatsoever.
But who actually have more expertise than most people in the mainstream media do, or at least collectively we do. So I'd say let politicians say what they will and let the market sort it out instead of the government trying to come up with, the latest regulation that will, it'll be like campaign finance reform. The moment they put this regulation in place, somebody will figure out a way to go around it and do something else.
Pretty much. Okay, so I value two things primarily, and I've said it before. I say it to all the people that I interview in any kind of an in-depth interview. I value two things, honesty and clarity. So let's be clear. I want to be clear on this. The only reason the FEC or the FCC wish to limit and regulate speech under the guise of fairness or equanimity is to limit the speech of only one side. You, me, conservatives, the conservative side. To limit the dissemination of information which thusly informs voters and allows conservatives to acquire facts, data, particulars on political issues, because, as we all know, everything is political now. The NFL is political. That's going to be to its own detriment. Just as an aside for that, I think it was Dave and Joe, Jersey Joe, and I were in chat. And we were theorizing a few things about the NFL. Is the NFL going to come back? I think Rush Limbaugh said that, the NFL, it's going to come back. It'll be back. And I postulated in chat. By the way, postulation is not communicable. I just thought I should tell you that. I said in chat that, you know what? I think the NFL is toast. I think they're done. I think we're seeing the initial destruction of the NFL. They're not getting any kids to do it anymore. That's leftists talking. The concussion issue is huge. And the stocks, NFL stock, by the way, just thought I should tell you, is going down in the stock market. They don't get it. Why is this happening? The coaches, the managers, the owners don't get it. They don't get that they're listening and bending to the employees. The employees are dictating to the owners. And they're completely ignoring the consumers. We are consumers. We people who watch, we are consumers. And they don't get that even if they did everything perfect this Sunday, there's still a contingent of people like me, because I'm a dickhead. I'm never going back to the NFL. Ever. They could change everything tomorrow, and I still wouldn't come back, because that's discretionary cash. That's political. And if they want to go political, I'm all ready to do that. I'm all ready to ignore advertisers. Just ask Jersey Joe. I'm all ready to not purchase NFL products or listen to anything about the NFL. Those people can all go to hell. They are employees. Now, the corollary to that is, do you think the owners are going to say something that mandates that all of their employees of a particular community, hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, will comply? Do you think they have that ability? Well, they have the ability. Do you think they're going to do it? I don't. I do not. They fear. Well, I think I wrote this in chat. They fear their employees, but they don't fear the consumer. That's you. That's me. We are the people who pay the tab on that. Just an aside. Finally, where, and I asked this before, where are the Republicans on this? Where are the Republicans on the FCC? Where are the Republicans on the FEC? Why no public GOP umbrage over the issue? Why aren't there any statements or any papers on this? Decisions to oppose? Anything publicly stated on this? Republicans taking a stand against this? Here's what you hear. Freed eat, freed eat, freed eat, freed eat. Crickets out in the field. Freed eat, freed eat. So, that's another reason that conservative trust in the GOP is almost vanished. That's why they're losing cash. People like McCain. Another reason the Republican fundraising is down, like I said, this quarter. Consequences for inaction, gridlock, failure to keep election promises, failure to coalesce around each other and the platform that they stated they were going to do and utilize the power that the GOP possess, potentially. They have the power. They have the presidency. They have the House. They have the Senate. And what has the GOP historically done with power? They've quaked in fear of it. Okay, so that's not too difficult to figure out, is it? Not really. Here's another little article. This is interesting, and I've got a couple of more minutes before I go on to the topic. But before I go to this one, this occurs in Europe. And so we're going to jump across the pond in a bit. But before I do you see now how all of these things in the first issue that I was talking about, Comey and Lynch on the tarmac, we're just now discovering that there's so much more buttery political goodness about that that's being revealed, and that the American media maggots are doing their level best to cover up. But it's out there. The information is out there. I feel like I'm talking from the X-Files now. It's out there. The information is out there. And what do they want to do by way of the FCC and the FEC? They want to make it more difficult, if not impossible, for you to discover that they've been cheating your ass, fucking you over for years. And a lot of it occurs on both sides of the aisle, which is why McCain is so important, which is why he's so interested. As far as John McCain is concerned, it's all about John McCain. It's always been that way, and it's always going to be that way. And I'm sorry he had a brain tumor. Okay. And I'm sorry he was shot down as a POW and he was in the Hanoi Hilton. Okay. Just like the decision would be applied to me, that was then, this is now. I only judge you on your actions or your inactions, which is how you folks judge me. And I think it's only applicable to John McCain. Now, you see how these things dovetail? There's a lot of crap that's out there that's going on. And when I give you the last two articles here, screw it, I'm not even going to do this thing. This one particular article is very interesting because France's President Macron, excuse me, France's President Macron, I'll get it out. France's President Macron could spark mass job walkout as he offers jobless up to £66,000 a year, or I'm sorry, euro a year in benefits. So let's see, that's about $75,000 a year in benefits. And what potential would there be to work then? What would be the impetus to work then anymore? And so would it be surprised that some people say President Emmanuel Macron, forget it, has been accused of encouraging laziness after he vowed to give up a €66,000 a year in unemployment benefits to people who stop working in a move that its critics fear could bankrupt the country's welfare state. Let's see, if I am a leftist and I want free cheese and I hear that France is offering $75,000 in free cheese, let's see, do I have to really go far to move into France? Well, no, I don't. I don't really. So that's socialism for you. Isn't that wonderful? It's a beautiful thing. Let's go to the final couple of articles. Oh, here's one. Obamacare tax to raise premiums in 2018 cost $270 billion over the next decade. Oh, that repeal thing. Well, the GOP said they're going to repeal it. No, they didn't repeal it. So guess what? Obamacare tax, your premiums are going to go up in 2018. And $270 billion it's going to cost in the next decade. Wow. As they say, woohoo. I've got a few more minutes. Here's the article. Like I said, everything dovetails. And it's all about power and information. The corollary is that cash obviously is involved. But trust me when I tell you, just like Frank Underwood says on House of Cards, when you're in D.C., it's all about the power. A lot of stuff is peripheral to that, but they want the power. Both sides. Make no mistake, both sides of the aisle. Here's a very interesting article that for whatever reason has gone unreported, and from all places, the Gateway Pundit. And I don't frequently visit there. But when I came across this article, now you're going to get it. Now you're going to take all this shite and link it together, and it's going to be like gears meshing with gears. And you're going to see where this is going, and not how wicky and teeny it is. This is big. This is huge. Headline from thegatewaypundit.com. Crime of unbelievable dimensions, attorney says. Trump dossier could have staggering implications for Obama DOJ. Okay, what's he talking about? Many questions still surround the now discredited Trump dossier. And people are finally starting to ask questions. Where did it really come from? Who funded it? Most importantly, did the Obama administration use it as a pretext to spy on Trump officials? If a FISA warrant was obtained using the dossier, it could have staggering implications, says former U.S. Attorney Joseph DeGenova. In other words, what he's saying is that this was all crafted, linked inexorably to make sure that you can't speak, you can't discover information, and it's all been corrupted internally. And so many people have taken a part in it. You remember the Trump dossier where they said they had information that Trump peed on people on a bed in Europe somewhere. That's where it came from. House Republicans want to know whether intelligence agencies used any information from the Christopher Steele dossier, especially for FISA warrants, because that means it's predicated upon false information. A congressional official with knowledge of the investigation said the FISA court was established by Congress in 1978 under the Federal Intelligence Surveillance Act. A FISA court judge must accept a formal application from the Justice Department to approve a warrant for electronic surveillance, physical search, and other forms of investigative actions for foreign intelligence purposes. But I wonder if that system can be worked. Because, you know, if you make contact with people not in the U.S., but you're looking for something else, and you unmask people, and you know where you're going, because you already know what you want to find out before you even get the warrant. You can manipulate things. It's a tool. It can be manipulated like anything else, can it not? Of course it can. If the unsubstantiated dossier information was entered as verifiable information before a FISA court, the implications are staggering. Former U.S. Attorney Joseph DeGenova said, that would mean the Obama administration pursued a type of manipulation of intelligence data and false intelligence data to mislead a court, he said. It's staggering in terms of its implications. Implications? prison time. The possibility the Obama administration might use the unproven allegations before a FISA court constitutes a crime of unbelievable dimensions, adding, it requires the impanelment of a federal grand jury. Folks, you heard it here first. Trust me, this is going to take off. And as I said before, what happened is that the Democrats decided because Hillary didn't make president, they didn't want to step over into the next day, November 9th. And they've been doing everything they possibly can to make sure that they are elected in perpetuity, and they will and have done things of staggering proportions to make sure that they get there. And that includes the sinking of Donald Trump in any way fashionable. Cheating, corruption, it doesn't make any difference. That's one of the reasons they want to suppress your speech. That's one of the reasons they want to suspend your access to information, because it proves that when you shine the light on the corner, that's where all the cockroaches go. And what happens with cockroaches in a corner? Let's see. That's right. You use a cowboy boot because that's how you kill them in a corner. Isn't it?
Monsieur has unlocked!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter at BZep, my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net, my email bz@shrmedia.com. Promotional consideration by the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And also Pratt & Whitney Engines Thrust. You can trust. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team with whom I will be consorting in less than an hour. Bank on it. Thank you ever so kindly for listening. Dude, E-Dudette. Thanks for being involved in the chat room. Thanks for listening live. Thanks for watching live. Listening in podcast. You see how this shit all revolves together? And trust me, this is the cusp. This is just beginning. It's only going to get worse for the Democrats. Bank on it. God bless. Take care. Have a great weekend. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.